Welcome into another episode of the Coach's Corner, where we give you a deep dive with some of the best coaches from around the area. Today we're joined with Gladys Genskow, the head coach of the EBF Rockets. Thanks for joining me, Coach.
Thanks for having me today.
So, as I was prepping this, I realized something. It hit me. You know, I know you. I would tell people I know Genskow, but then I'm like, I don't. You know, there's so much of your life and your career that I don't know about, and I just figured, why not just start here, you know? So, tell me, has Eddyville always been your home? Like, did you grow up here?
Actually, I grew up went to Albee High School.
Oh.
So, La Villa, which is a really little town at Incumbents, Albee, just kind of like Melrose goes to Albee. La Villa went to Albee, and yeah, so they're kind of my rival.
Yeah, so you grow up and you move across the way down the highway, down 137. Yeah. Did anybody have any content about that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I went to college at William Penn, you know, so it's just always been here in the area, and an opportunity came, you know, available, and so I've been here ever since.
You're the head volleyball coach of EBF, but before we get into the coaching aspect of things, where did the love for volleyball come from for you?
From high school. I think our school was one of the few that started, you know, volleyball way back when I was in middle school, and kind of flourished from there. I was an athlete, and I say I'm still an athlete, you know, even at my age, I feel like I'm still an athlete, and I excelled in high school, went on to play at college, and just fell in love with the game. Played, you know, when I was out of college, played co-ed volleyball as well, and so it's just kind of always been part of my life.
How long have you been coaching here at EBF for volleyball?
This was my 26th season.
26, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, sustainability, that's something we all like to have in our job. Well, back when, 26 years ago, when you got the decision, what was your vision for, you know, this program when you took it over?
You know, I really didn't have a vision because I was young back then. I worked at the YMCA for like 10 years as a aquatic director, program director, and actually I refereed volleyball within that 10 years. And so I was always still in the light of volleyball, and an opportunity came open for physical education position here. First started out over at Blakesburg, and I took on, you know, being the head coach, which, you know, throughout the years, Eddyville, you know, I really haven't researched the history of them, but they'd been in and out of coaches, you know, throughout the years, and I think just kind of pretty mediocre in the conference. And actually, speaking way back in the late 80s, when I first got out of college, an opportunity came just to be a junior high volleyball coach. I did that too, way back in like 1987.
Okay.
And so then in 1988, I came up, and there was an assistant position that was available, and was an assistant coach, and then left, and I had a full-time position at the YMCA. So started here, and I'll be ending here.
Nice, well done. Well, so like you said, when you started, you know, the vision, you know, I'm a coach, let's play some volleyball, let's see what we can do. But obviously now you're a veteran at it. You see, how would you say your vision has evolved for the program?
I think, you know, after when I first started, you know, we were, you know, pretty, again, mediocre in the conference. I think my first year we might ended up maybe third place, and just being able to work with athletes and to be able to give them, you know, skills to be successful. We found our team was very, you know, getting very successful. And so, you know, once that started, you know, obviously every year our vision was to be at the top of the conference. And there was many years, I don't even know how many, maybe around 15, that we were first in the conference. You know, so it's just been something that's kind of started now into, it's a tradition. I think people kind of expect it, but, you know, we're given what we're given here at small schools, and just trying to make them the best version of themselves. And so, you know, you take your team and develop it into, you know, championship teams is what our goal is.
Success is what everybody in athletics wants, of course, but it's not easy to come by. And it's so much deeper than just how you play on the court. When you look at your program, what would you say are the core values that you build your program around, and how do you go about implementing them?
I think consistency is a big, huge key to, you know, them knowing what my expectations are, what my practice expectations are, just their attitudes, their beliefs, and I walk the talk. I mean, you know, if I put down expectations for them, then I modeled a lot of those expectations, and I'm consistent with it. So I think when kids come and play, They know that, what the expectation is, and, we have fun doing it too. So it's not just all down to business, but you got to kind of mix that in between as well. And kids find that they are valued in the program. I give them some opportunities to be, make some decisions about the program. So when you see your team shirts every year of whatever we wear out here, those are things that seniors get to pick. Their themes and, some of those little things that you wonder why we come up with what we do. It's the seniors, I blame them, but I give them the opportunity. So it's a good buy-in, to the program. It's fun. As you've been to some of our practices, and did some talking to some of our athletes, we're engaged all the time. It's fast-paced. We have music playing. That's just some of the fun things that just kind of keeps them going. And I think the camaraderie that they find within each other of just teammates and some of the togetherness stuff that we do, kind of really bonds the team together and just makes it fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, especially in high school. So much of it for kids is about not only just getting to play a cool sport, they also get to do it with their friends. And to be able to do that, be successful, and have fun is such a big part of it all. When you think about the way the chemistry is built within it, how much of that do you see excelled back onto the court?
It's a huge part. And the thing is, you don't get to pick and choose, what friends are playing, what friends aren't playing. And you just hope that, by putting together the skills, that are going to be, make each team successful is also going to make them, the camaraderie of them successful as well. Which, being at a small school, and I think just being part of the athletics, everybody is kind of so intermixed with each other. I don't think they have time to not like each other and not get along, and they know that's one of my expectations because, I'll call them out right away and we'll have that conversation, and it's just so important that, the game is more mental than it is physical, and I probably say that so many times throughout the season, and just being friends with each other and just getting along, will help flourish your game just as much as, the talent and the skills that you have.
You coach this sport at a high school level, and that's a fragile thing. This is an area where, the kids can be very mature, but some kids have to be handled differently. What would you say about coaching the high school level is difficult that some people on the outside may not understand? It
seems like the past 10 years or so, it just seemed like you can see the escalation of the anxiety level, the expectations, really, I think, everybody wants a spot. Everybody wants to be one of those starters on the floor, and I can see in the eyes of some players that don't get to play very much, just the anxiety level, and I think sometimes that drives them away from the sport too. And that's with any sport, not just my sport, but I just really feel like the athlete that comes in, once they know the expectations, they work their tail off. They work really hard. And then for me as a coach to make that decision of, who's the best player, who's going to be the most consistent, in that area that they need to be is something that they have to either accept or, or they just, are content with sitting on the bench, it's really hard, especially at the varsity level, because, it's not like a JV or freshman or junior high where everybody gets the opportunity to play. I've been fortunate to have, some seniors that they've stuck it out. They might not have any playing time, but the love of the game and the love to being around the team and just what goes on with the team is really important to them. And so they stick it out. And as a coach, that's just as huge as these kids out here on the floor, having a bench, having somebody, to support them. So it isn't all just about, the 6 people on the floor. It all encompasses a team, and I really feel like I try to emphasize that a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that too, because I felt like when I got here, a lot of what I was seeing from some of the varsity levels around was a very big inclusion style of coaching and camaraderie, which is a good thing, don't get me wrong, but also when it comes to success, you have to have the best players out there. You mentioned having kids who may not got playing time but sticking around. What are some of the conversations that you have to have with players like that who maybe want to find playing time but just aren't up to that par?
Hard conversations, no doubt, but it's something I need for them to understand that I'm looking for consistency. I mean, they can, be a hard worker out on the floor, giving 110%, but I need consistency for the position that they're playing. Stats a lot of times, kind of dictates a little bit as to, how well are we passing, How well are we getting to digs? How well are we reading defense, you know, for back row players, front row players, you know, being able to, you know, see the ball well enough to see the court, be able to take advantage of those openings, you know, the kill efficiency, you know, is really key. Being able to block a ball, being able to move, you know, just those little basic type of skills, and they know those skills, you know, and obviously some of the athletes, you know, are better than some of the other athletes. But I find that, and over the years of having really great athletes, the others, they rise to where they are, to that level, and that even just makes it even better. And especially for kids that are, say, going to come back next year, you know, they know what the expectations are, and they know what it's going to take to be at that level, you know, and then at some point in time, some of those kids do get the opportunity to rise and, you know, have to do their thing, what they've learned, you know, behind some of those great athletes.
26 years, you mentioned about the great athletes, and from my prep, I've seen that you've had a couple different batches of them. Who are some of the athletes that you've coached over the years that have really stood out to you?
You know, one of them that totally brings to mind, because she holds some records out there, is Bobby Bear. Back in 2006, when my first exposure to the state volleyball, she was a powerhouse. I mean, she was recognized around the state because she hit the ball very hard. You know, and just the supporting, you know, teammates that we had behind that, you know, were good too. One of them totally comes to mind right now is Taylor Swartz, and she's actually a gynecologist here in Oskaloosa right now. Her and her husband have a practice now, and so I see her frequently, and she was a libero, and she was one that was always such a hard-working girl too, back in that same era. Kirsten Brown, she is a gal right now, she's a chiropractor. You know, so some of these, you know, people come off to, you know, some great careers too, and I, you know, follow her on social media a lot, and, you know, that was back when, you know, we were developing some really good teams. Another one that comes to mind when I first walked into this program is Nicole Lorenzen. Her folks still live over in the Fremont area, and she had a brother, Tyler Lorenzen, too, that actually went on to play professional football too.
I'll say that name is very familiar.
Yeah,
I was like,
way
wait a
back
minute.
in like 2001,
Yeah.
somewhere in that era, and then he came up maybe 2000 and I don't know, 8, 9, I don't know, somewhere in there. But but yeah, so she was a tremendous athlete. She went on to play at Iowa State, and only being like 5'10", she made some difference up there at Iowa State way back in that day. Bobby Bear, she went and played, I think, in New Mexico at one point. Played at DMAC in Boone at some point too, and Kirsten Brown, she went off to play, I want to say maybe Wartburg, possibly, but a lot of these athletes that are good, they went off and played. Some current ones that are playing is Whitney Klein, she plays over at Wartburg. I was able to go watch her play a little bit this year.
Nice.
And obviously Carly Taylor, you know, that made a huge impact there at UNI. And then the twins, obviously, you know, from recent days here. But we also have a gal playing right now currently, Cooper Shampoo. You know, sometimes we kind of like forget about some of these other kids that don't get the huge the highlights and stuff. But she was a good player back in the same time with Carly Taylor and them and Whitney Klein. And so, yeah, she's playing, I believe, at Waldorf. We've had some, like Coach Taylor that coaches for me, you know, her daughters have played over at Central. So it's just, we've had a lot of kids go through our program that were really good athletes and went on to that next level and played as well.
Well, as you know, I've had got a close relationship with last year's team, and got to know a lot of those girls. And recently, I spoke to a couple of them, and we had a little conversation about you, and they decided to leave you a little message. So let's take a look at this right here.
She kind of just taught me how to be super disciplined and how to be a good leader, just taking on a role, and I mean just taking on a leadership role kind of early on in my volleyball career at EBF, and she kind of just developed me into that. And also the Sandhills whipped me into shape, not gonna lie, and that kind of prepared me.
And bear crawls.
And bear crawls whipped me into shape for college, so
yes.
Shout out Genskow.
Yes, I would say the same thing, just really instilling confidence in us as athletes and believing in us from day one, and just always having our backs on the court and off the court, and always just being our biggest fans wherever we are.
She's even come to a few games, so that's really awesome. We appreciate all of the support. Thank you, Genskow.
So when you see that, what do you think when you see things like that from your students?
Yeah, those are some things that are memorable things because, I've had a lot of players tell me that, conditioning and stuff was a big deal here in my program, which it totally is, because I told them, I said, if we can't beat somebody physically, we're going to downright beat them because we've got good endurance. If we're going to take that, that set to all five and just to have players like them and to recognize you of some good things that you did and they remember and trying to get those players to make sure they understand they need to be leaders on the court. May it be in a silent way, may it be in a boisterous way, but their leadership is huge, and that's something I think can really impact a team of their success is based on what kind of leadership do they have beyond just the coach, being their leader. So.
When you think about the Schaefers, they're the most recent form of EBF royalty, if you will.
Yeah.
Just what did they mean and the legacy that they left on the EBF volleyball program?
They're just hardworking girls. I mean, they spent countless hours all the time here in this gym, especially Kate, a lot of, setting reps and, just I think it was to the point that it was kind of obsession. She had to get so many of those reps in, and things like that, which it's made her to be good like she is now. And same thing with Molly. Those both have positions that will help them flourish. And they've been doing that ever since they were little kids, coming to their sisters' volleyball tournaments, them peppering and just having that passion for the sport and just being tremendous athletes go hand in hand with that. But just their dedication to wanting to be good. They've just put in so much time and effort into the sport.
Just a few more for you, and I think in a way they may be some of the more important questions. We talked about the success that you've had here at EBF. When you think about all the state tournaments and what are those experiences like, being able to get back up to Coralville and wherever they've had the state tournament over the years?
Yeah, for a while, maybe in the past 4 years, it's kind of been an expectation, but it's something that every kid strives for, to try to be able to play at that highest level at a state tournament, and no matter what sport it is. And that's just something that, realistically, you look at, especially Class 2A. I think Class 2A is probably one of the hardest classes, to play, but, beyond 5A. But,
right.
So it's always tough. It's always been challenging. We always seem to have a lot of people, in our area that are looking out for EBF because we've always made that challenge a lot. And we've been fortunate to have some athletes to help drive us to get to those, to the state tournament. But, for not getting to the state tournament, we're getting to at least the semifinals and winning some games. So that's just something that's an expectation in our program, and we just keep striving to be better. And I think a lot of the girls have really bought into, what my program is about and, the expectations it takes to be successful. And so it's just one of those things that I'll just keep striving for that to, try to get to the state tournament.
So when you look back at your career, these 26 years, I know you've got a lot of coaching left, don't get me wrong, but where we stand now, when you look over the history of it, any regrets?
Oh, just a little. I mean, not of coaching itself, not at coaching, but I guess to be successful, takes a lot of sacrifices. So, yeah, I'll tear up a little bit, but yeah. My family's been a sacrifice. Of me not being there, not being there as a mom as a kid, but that's one thing that's kind of nice right now with my daughter, being in the program, is at least I have her around. And then with my son, was here too, this year, so that kind of helped. I mean, I felt like, to get to the end of my career. I do have some years left, but you get to the end part of it, that, it kind of comes around. Kind of like Christmas, so those, when you ask me about regrets, the yes and no.
Yeah.
And all coaches go through that, with their families and being away, but I've been married for about 33 years, so my husband's still stuck with me, and my kids are still around. It's just, and they all play volleyball too, so that's something that's really stuck with them, and they have a passion for it as well. So, all's good with that, but it just gets kind of, to your hearts if you wish you could do some little things different, or how can you convince your family into, your coaching life. And, I felt like I tried to do the best I can, and, convincing my parents, also, following my career too and being here at games. So, I got to be thankful, that I've had that opportunity to be able to include them as much as I can, and to also bring the success to this school as best I could with, a lot of sacrifices involved.
Thank you for sharing that. It's
Yeah.
clear. I mean, that type of feeling only comes from having a passion for it. So I appreciate that. I'll be honest. I was thinking you were going to talk championships and things like that, of course. And I love the answer you gave over that instead. But that's one of the few things that I think has eluded you at this point. Or
Nothing. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
As a coach, you can't ever, say it's not possible for your team, but you got to go with realistic expectations. You've been there, we almost won a state championship. You know the type of kids it takes. You know the sacrifices for them it takes, and the talent and the athleticism. But we'll still try to be the best. We'll still try to, to achieve what we can achieve, and work with what we got, and try to make them better, make the team better, and that's all you can do as a coach, and just work with what you have and strive to get to that highest level.
All right, so last question, and I always think this one encompasses everything we do as a coach, and of course we do it for the kids, but there's always that last part in the back of your mind. When you look back, or when your players look back and the fans look back, what do you hope people say about the Genskow era of coaching at EBF, your legacy?
Gee, that's a hard one. I don't know. I would assume that they're going to say that I produced good teams, teams that, have been successful. I think especially with volleyball, for sure, with state tournament things, I think we have really encompassed our school and our student body. You have to talk to some of those kids that tell them what was one of your highlight of experiences at school. They will tell you going to like a state volleyball tournament and doing those things. And I mean, I guess I don't, see it as me being that big driving force of, that type of thing, of leaving that type of legacy. I mean, because they're the ones doing the biggest work. They're the ones putting in the hard time and everything. I just feel like I'm just that leader that, gets them to where they need to be. And, like they say, players are made in the off season. You have a lot of kids, and I really is a big supporter of kids going out and finding something in the wintertime, no matter where it's at, and playing, getting their hands on the ball, listening to other coaches, taking what they can, making sure they have a lot of tools in their toolbox, and to be able to then, when season comes, put it out there on the floor. And I just feel like I have supported kids in a lot of different things that they've wanted to do, and made some good decisions and put them in the right spots, I guess, at the right times, and making some good decisions. And I don't know. I mean, beside the sacrifices, they might say that I got them in really good shape, just like the twins would say. Yeah, just all those little components of the game that you don't really think. Yeah. That's part of it. It is. I think people have really fun. Volleyball seems to be a sport that a lot of people enjoy watching.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of those, the older folks, they never grew up with volleyball at all.
Yeah.
And so their first exposure is, coming to maybe a high school game here, seeing it, or maybe playing it in the backyard. But yeah, I think they find that it's really fun.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, and thank you so much for opening up and sharing your stories with the community, and taking the time to sit down with me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been great, and that's about all I can say for that. So thank you guys for checking out another episode of the Coach's Corner. If you'd like to see any of the other episodes, go to our YouTube page for Tri-State Trusted and KTVO. And until then, I've been AJ Johnson. Thanks.